ਕਿੰਨਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਚਿੱਟਾ ਲਾਉਂਦੇ ਨੂੰ?
ਮੈਨੂੰ ਹੋ ਗਈ 5 ਸਾਲ ਤਾਂ ਹੋ ਗਈ।
ਤੇ 1 ਗ੍ਰਾਮ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਦਾ ਮਿਲਦਾ?
5 ਦਾ ਵੀ ਮਿਲ ਜਾਂਦਾ, 3 ਦਾ ਵੀ ਮਿਲ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਜੀ।
ਹਾਂ,
ਮਤਲਬ ਕੋਈ ਵਧੀਆ ਆਉਂਦਾ, ਕੋਈ ਮਾੜਾ ਵੀ ਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਜੀ।
ਹੁਣ ਤਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੀਤਾ ਹੋਇਆ?
ਹੁਣ ਪੀਤਾ ਹੈ।
ਪੀਤਾ ਹੋਇਆ?
ਕਦੋਂ ਪੀਤਾ ਹੋਇਆ?
ਕਦੋਂ ਪੀਤਾ? ਸਵੇਰੇ
8 ਵਜੇ।
When you think of the drug crisis in Punjab, you picture a young man, both as consumer and peddler. But an investigation spanning months, during which the Indian Express analysed thousands of FIRs and visited villages across the state, has highlighted a new trend of women turning accused in drug-related cases. Welcome to the Indian Express. Today, we're speaking with the two people behind the investigation, Punjab resident editor Manraj Grewal Sharma and deputy resident editor Varinder Bhatia. Hi Manraj, Varinder. Why don't you take us through what your key findings were in your investigation?
I think one of our major findings, the most disturbing finding, was the increase in the number of women drug dealers. So we'd heard of women being addicted and so on, but this was when we started going through these FIRs, more than 11,000 FIRs, we found lots of women being mentioned there. And then we started visiting people, visiting villages. So we found something which would have been a taboo a couple of years back was no longer so. So women were also being arrested for drug dealing, and at several places everybody knew that there are these houses and there are these women who are very much part of this whole mess.
And how is this a trend, an emerging trend? How is this different from, let's say, what we would have seen about 10 years ago?
you see, 10 years ago, like, you would find a lot of men, and particularly the young men who would be involved in this drug trade. But here, while traveling, we discovered that it's not only the men alone in the family, but an accused wife is also into this drug dealing. The son is also involved in drug dealing. The daughter-in-law is also involved in drug dealing. Even in the families where men had died or children had died due to drug overdose or some other reasons, the women, we found there were women, if there are two women in a family, they both are facing these NDPS cases. So that's quite a shift from the previous years. We had done a series in 2015 and 16 also, but that time we had not seen the participation of women at such a large scale as we found it this time.
And take us through your reporting process. I believe you went through hundreds, if not thousands, of FIRs, and you traveled through several villages. So take us through that.
Yeah, so we had Punjab government in the assembly submitted over 11,000.
A list of these FIRs numbers.
Yeah, so over 11,000 FIRs all under NDPS Act. So we went through each one of them, all these FIRs, which was not a very easy or smooth process, because all that we had was a listing of FIRs. So we had these files, we downloaded them, and after that, when it came to downloading the FIR, that was a very cumbersome process, because you have to go to a Punjab government portal called Sanj, Punjab Police Portal, and on any given day you can only download 9 FIRs from one device. So me and Varinder would be scampering from our computer, from our laptop to our office computer to our phones, so that we could at least download 27 each per day. So it turned out to be a very time consuming thing, and there were times when it would just, the thing wouldn't work at all, the server would be down. So we would at times do it after midnight or around midnight. So that was one part of it, getting the FIRs down and figuring out how many pertain to men, how many pertain to women. That is when we realized there are a lot of women, in terms of numbers. Then we also found there were lots of people being accused of peddling tablets. And this is the chemical nasha, as they call it. And most often they wouldn't tell you, the FIRs would just list nashili goliyan, nashili tablets and unmarked tablets, and book a person under NDPS. So that was second. And also we found a large number of cases with very small quantities. In fact, some of them were, which we found extremely ridiculous, were which seemed to be cases against the end users. For they were people charged with, they were caught because they had in their possession a 10 rupee note, a
Silver
lighter,
foil, the
and silver foil.
matchbox.
Matchstick or a lighter, silver foil, and a rupees 10 note. And the FIR would say that we got some information, we got a tip off that this guy is selling drugs. We went to his house or hideout and we found him with just this. In terms of recovery, that is all they had, and these people were duly arrested and put in jail. And then, of course, the number of FIRs with large seizures were not as many as compared to the smaller ones. And interestingly, while going through the FIRs, we found that, for instance, in Amritsar rural, you have Amritsar city and Amritsar rural. In Amritsar rural, there were at least 10 cases where the recoveries were in several kilos of heroines. So 14 kilos, which is like humongous. But when it came to the accused, all that we got was unknown. So those were kind of slightly startling bits of information that we got from the FIRs. So once we had the FIRs in place, we started traveling. So both of us, Varinder will tell you.
We traveled to different directions, both of us, and we spent a number of days visiting these families, interviewing them, and talking to, of course, the police also, the area SHOs, the senior police officers, the district police chiefs, even to the DGP and the ministers in the government, to assess that what is the government's action plan to actually to succeed in breaking this the drug trafficking. And more than trafficking, it's we found that its consumption of narcotics has increased over the years, and which shows in police records also in these FIRs that a majority of cases we found, they were either for of the personal quantity, for personal use or intermediate, but not very few cases of commercial quantity seizures. So which means that a lot of these people who have been arrested, they were the end users. And of course, one thing I would like to add, that when we started investigating into all these FIRs, we had also adopted the RTI route, and we got blocked from several districts. I mean, they started asking us that either we are sending it from our office address with the stamps of the office and giving our names, designations, mobile numbers, everything we are sending. But then after about a month or so, we are receiving a reply saying that your application is either rejected for various reasons, or they don't have this compiled information, or they would want us to give our Aadhaar cards, and so on. And from a few districts where we got a reply that yes, they can share the information, the price was so huge. I mean, one district we received, it was roughly about 65,000 or something for giving us a simple information which the government says it's in public domain.
And you know, the travel, what was most striking about the travel was meeting these women and going to their homes. So my first stop was this village called Roti Channa in Nabha Tehsil. It's in Patiala district. So you know, there's this row of houses and most of them are of denotified tribes. So it is there we found a lot of women, and these women told us that these cases run in their families. So I met this girl who was just 19, and she seemed to be, she claimed that she was very bright in her studies, she was doing well, and then she wanted to join the Punjab police, and she was visiting her sister when the house was raided, and they said they had found 875 tablets, nashili goliyan on her. I asked the investigating officer, and he said, we don't trump up cases. We are not framing anyone. Here are these women, and there is. He even told me who the kingpin was, and that please don't go by their stories, etc. So both the sides had something to tell. But the sad bit was, this girl, her father was booked for NDPS 18 years back, right? And he'd passed away. Then her mother was booked and her elder sister. So she's the younger sibling. And now she says that with this one case, my fate is sealed. Nobody's going to give me a job. So that is the tragedy of it. And in other cases, for instance, there's a village called Badshahpur in Kapurthala. So it's a normal village. You go there, you find lots of kids playing around, a huge gurdwara, etc. And then you discover that one of the girls from the village, a teenager, her video had gone viral in September, in which she was seen peddling drugs. So after that, the police arrested her, and I went to her family, her house. So we found the mother was already in jail. The father had just been bailed out, but everybody in the village, nobody wanted to have anything to do with him. And at home, I found these 4 kids. The youngest must be just 4, and the eldest girl must be 12 or 13. All of them very scared. They asked me whether I would, to see police ho, matlab, are you a cop? They thought I was in plain clothes, a cop. I asked them, does the police come here frequently? They said, Hanji, Andi hai. Haan, matlab, for them, it's the police coming and going is normal. I also asked them, do you go to school regularly? Then they looked at each other. So that was very, very heartbreaking, because for no fault of theirs, these kids, they have no future. They are not going to school regularly. They are probably being ostracized by others in the village. And what is their fault? So that was one point in which I had a meltdown, because this littlest kid who was just 4, frowning at me, scared, worried. So I asked him, in fact, "Inna gusse kyo ho?" And he smiled. So that was very heart-wrenching. We found that in other villages as well. In fact, Varinder met 2 grown-ups who were trying to eke out a living. But they said, just because our mother is in jail, everybody looks at us with suspicion.
Yeah, this was in Mansa, where a man and his sister, they both are very well educated, and now they are teaching children in their locality. But just because, like Manraj is saying, because their mother is facing a NDPS case and she is in prison, and they are feeling kind of a lot of backlash from the society, and their relatives won't talk to them, their neighbors won't come to them. But somehow they are trying to move on with their lives, and they say ki yes, we understood that probably our mother got into this because she wanted to take care of our educational expenses, because our father had died a long time ago. But then they don't want to come out. They don't want their faces to be shown. They don't want their names to be revealed, because they say that it will bring more troubles for them. And when we travel to the localities, the colonies, the villages, we found another thing, that if you ask for somebody's house by the name, they may not be able to tell you that. But the moment you tell them that there was an NDPS case against them, so they'll immediately come out with the exact location of the places, the residences, saying ki chitte da parcha, how fulani gali hai, and you can go there and meet them. But they won't accompany you, because they say that if we go to their houses, we face retaliation later. So there's people who are living in those localities or in those villages. They know who's consuming, they know who's selling, and there's always a constant kind of a fear among the people who are not into this whole thing. Also, there is another fact that we noticed while investigating all these FIRs, that out of 11,000 FIRs, there are about 25% in which the seizures were of intoxicant tablets or the capsules or the injections or the intoxicant syrups. So while traveling across Punjab's various districts, we found that majority of these intoxicant capsules and tablets are easily available on at chemist shops. In fact, at a number of places, particularly in Mansa, a few activists, they've started a campaign in coordination with the district administration uh, to catch all these chemists who are selling these synthetic drugs, they call it, because one, of course, that these are easily available, they are a cheaper option, and a safe way for an addict to think that he can get a high by consuming these tablets. He will not get caught at home, or he can keep it in his pocket as any other medicine.
And a couple of trends when I was going through your story. One is that an overwhelming number of such arrests are from a very poor region called Malwa. And the other, that a lot of these women, in fact, a majority of these women are married, which means they have settled lives. So, how do you perceive that? What do you make of this trend?
I think it's because, as we've written, it's all in the family. So what happens is the husband is in the trade. When he goes to jail, there is nobody to look after the family. They have no other source of income, and nobody is going to give them work because of that tag attached to their name. And so the woman does what her husband has been doing. And because there is a network, the suppliers know that here is a woman who can sell. The people who want the drugs know that, I can get drugs from this family. So that's how it becomes a family trade. For instance, in Booth Village, which is, of course, which is not in Malwa, which is in Doaba, we found there were a group of brothers, they were together, and three brothers or four brothers and their wives, all of them had been to jail at some point or the other. It was almost like a family business. And from what I could make out is, it wasn't as if they were flourishing, and at least what we saw was a very meager existence. And I think so, it's a vicious circle. Because you are into selling drugs, because your husband sells drugs, and that is your source of livelihood. When your husband goes to jail, you take it up, or when your husband dies, which also we found in several cases, then also you fall back on drugs. And there is no rehabilitation as such, or at least it hasn't reached them.
When you speak of rehabilitation, the current dispensation is making any efforts in that direction? Has the needle moved under the new government, or is there a lot of work left to be done?
We were told that there's this strategy called enforcement,
Yeah.
EDP. Prevention is the last.
Prevention is
But first is enforcement.
detection.
Enforcement, detection, and prevention. So traditionally, police have been following this strategy. So there's a lot of focus on crackdowns. So which is why they pick up anybody who's found with drugs. So for instance, we asked an SHO because there were people saying that every time there is some incident, like in the border areas, I was told that every time there's a drone that is sighted, they come to my house. That boy said, I don't sell drugs any longer, but the police comes to me. The police rationale is we maintain a list of people who've been associated with the drug trade, and every time there is a new rush, a supply, an increase in supply, we of course go to these places. So now what they've started doing is, the DGP, he told us that this August, they had a brainstorming session with the district police chiefs, and all of them agreed that there are too many small cases, of which they won't admit it openly, but off the record they say too many cases of end users becoming charged, being booked under the NDPS Act. So now, on the one hand, they are going after the big fish, so to say. So the they have been the chief minister has said that anybody who's made, he's a big drug supplier, so seize his property. So property worth 83 crores,
88,
crore,
approximately 88
yeah,
crores they have
has been
seized.
seized in the last 1 year. And the chief minister says there should be a zero tolerance policy when you know that this guy is into drugs. And so even the vehicles are being seized. So, which is one end of the spectrum. Then they are also tightening the border. So, the Punjab police, earlier it was only the BSF. Now, the Punjab police has set up these posts behind the BSF. They've also set up village defense committees. So, basically, to choke the supply coming from across the border. That is enforcement bit. But on the other side, this is the supply side. So they are also saying that we need to stop the demand. So this is the chief minister who said that, no matter what the police might do, as long as there is a demand, the supply will continue. If not from across the border, from Delhi. So we need to, every family, every parent needs to keep a watch on their children. The village needs to keep a watch on their neighbors. So it has to become a community movement for it to be successful. So I think that's the shift we've seen. That on the one hand, they've started focusing on the big fish, and on the other hand, there's like a blanket social media blitz about drugs. You have singers telling you don't do drugs. They do cycle rallies. They are doing gully cricket, etc. Because they say the only way we can connect with the khaki is not seen in a great light. I mean, people are scared of the khaki, and so. But if we get to interact with them in other ways other than just a police walking into your house, so they are organizing those kind of events. 37 events a month. I mean, that's what they say, and so this is new. The focus being on, so that you're tackling not just the supply, it's not just the enforcement, you're also saying that it has to be a community movement, that we have to say no to drugs. Only then can we successfully drive them out.
Right. I think that about sums it up. Thank you so much, Manraj and Varinder. And we look forward to
Thank
your
you,
next
Rahul.
Thank you,
investigation.
Rahul.